Here we are once again at Horrorhound Indy 2016, and we have my favorite interview to do every year. This will be the third year in a row that I get to do another Sunday morning. It's not morning, but it still feels
close
like
enough.
It's another Sunday interview with one of my favorite people, Jason Hignite. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. You know, it's Sunday. It's Horrorhound, which means we're all kind of in zombie mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a stellar weekend. A lot of energy, a lot of good stuff going on, and yet again, success, man. I think it was a good show.
Awesome. How's this year comparing to previous years?
It's every show is a little different.
Right.
You know, it's hard to say that it was better or worse. It's just they're all different. They're all new. You know, and we construct them the same, but the different celebrities, the different films, the different vendors, it always brings a whole new energy. So it was good, man.
Awesome.
It was really good.
Awesome. We had a little rough weather the first couple of days, but I don't think that deterred from
No,
any of the festivities.
No, not at all. This is the first year in 3 years where it's been warm this weekend. It's been very cold in years past for our
Very
September
true.
show. So at least we had the heat. We did get some pretty torrential downpours, but hey, Sunday, the sun's shining, the sky's blue, and no one died.
That we know of.
Well, they haven't found the bodies yet. Let's just put it that way, and they never will.
Fair enough.
We're very good at what we do.
How'd the film festival side of things go this year?
The film festival went great this year, man. Yet again, we had films that just blew my mind as the film festival director. So excited to bring them. What was different this time is we had the Fox Network bring us the pilot episode of The Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
It airs next weekend on the Fox Network on Friday nights. Next weekend being, I think, it's August 26th. Don't quote me on that date, but coming very soon. This has been the only place that the general public has been able to see the pilot episode. Previous screenings of the pilot have been with kind of film insiders and reviewers and critics and that sort of thing. So that was a great opportunity to do that, to work with Fox. Had some great films from overseas yet again. We screened the black and white version of Plan Z, which we screened back in March. The black and white version was the version the filmmaker had always wanted to release, and Horrorhound Films, through cooperation with Invincible Pictures, we did an exclusive release of the black and white version of the film, and Mark Wade, who was the producer and one of the stars of the film, flew over from Scotland to kind of help represent the film. Had some shorts from France and Denmark and the UK and from Mexico, so it's always great to get that international flavor in the festival as well. But we did what we called our exploitation extravaganza. We did Saturday night with Dear God No and Frankenstein Created Bikers, which was a blast.
That sounds fantastic.
Friday night, our Midnight Monster movie was Night of Something Strange, which I tell people is kind of your best like 1980s National Lampoon sex comedy, and throw in some truly frightening zombies, and that's Night of Something Strange. We screened another brilliant film from Brian Williams and Scott Shermer called Plank Face. So all in all, it's just a great festival. I feel like there's so many other films that we screened. Brought some great stuff from Corpsey Rhine, who is the editor of Girls and Corpses magazine.
Right.
He's also a filmmaker. He was one of the executive producers on Rob Zombie's 31. But he brought us a couple films called Parasites and All I Need. We had Peelers, which is an awesome kind of stripper zombie movie. And we kind of had some a little more higher brow stuff too. We had a film called Trinity from Skip Shea. We had Aaron's Blood from Tony Savall. And can't forget, we screened Yoga Hosers. Man, I actually interviewed Kevin Smith a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Totally cool cat. And he gave us permission to screen Yoga Hosers. And we had Robert Kurtzman here already, who did the little zombie bratwurst monsters from Yoga Hosers. He got up and introduced the film. So good times. We did Fritz the Night Owl, legendary horror host from Columbus, Ohio. Did a hosted version of Fright Night, because we had most of the Fright Night cast here, and Chris Sarandon got up and talked about that, and We also screened a music video from his stepson, Aaron David Gleason, a song called Mastermind, that was directed by a filmmaker whose films we've screened here in the past, a filmmaker by the name of Jeremiah Kipp out of New York City, directed that. So, yeah, just a lot of great stuff. Had another short from Patrick Ray, who Horrorhound fans love. Good times, man. I have no complaints. It was a beautiful weekend.
Very, very awesome. So in the past, we've talked, in previous interviews, we've talked a little bit about like your film career and some of the films that you've done. Are you working on anything right now? Anything you want to plug or?
Well, not right now. I was blessed. We screened a couple of films that I had some involvement in. They're not my films, but myself and my wife, Bridget McCauley, were in Plank Face, Brian Williams and Scott Shermer's film. I finally got to play a masked killer. My dream of playing a masked killer finally came to fruition. And Bridget and I are also in Jimmy Bickert's Frankenstein Creative Bikers, where I got to fulfill another dream where I got shot on screen. And she got shot too. She got to feel the squib, which is something I wanted to feel. They used a different kind of blood dispersion device on me because I took a double-barrel shotgun blast to the chest in that film. But that was a lot of fun too. So, right now I'm kind of developing some scripts. So just kind of in the early process on those right now. We had another filmmaker named Raina Miller from Muncie, Indiana, who's a film student at Ball State. Actually, I take that back. She's an animation student at Ball State. So she brought us an animated horror short that was really good. And I've been working on an idea for a short that I always felt should be animated. So I had a chance to talk to her. So maybe there might be a collaboration there on her animating this short idea that I have. But yeah, still just working on some scripts and trying to see what we can't get done. I'll get some teams together and some budget together on those.
Very cool.
Yeah,
That's
always
awesome,
moving
man.
forward. And then plus, again, we've since the last time we talked, we've established Horrorhound Films. We're distributing films now. We're representing films for filmmakers and trying to help them get out there. We've got Hanover House from Corey and Haley Norman from Maine, and then the black and white version of Plan Z from Stuart Brennan from the UK. And then we're also within Horrorhound Films looking at possibilities of producing our own original content.
Awesome.
From Horrorhound,
That's really, really cool to hear. So, especially with a lot of the interviews that we do and the audience that we have particularly, I think a big portion of them are people who really want to get into the film business in one way or the other, whether it's on the review side or the writing or coverage side, or if it's to actually get down and make films. So one question I don't think I've ever had the chance to ask you is, how did you get into what you're doing now, or how did you get your spark that led you to the career that you're leading now?
Wow. It's a kind of a long path. I can give you Cliff Notes version. I've been performing ever since I was a kid. My dad was in a rock band when I was very young. In fact, my mom was a groupie of the band, which is how I came to be. I'm just being honest. So music and performing music and being on stage in front of people has been something I've done my whole life. So at a very early age, I got into theater and performing live. At the same time, I grew up a total monster kid. I loved horror since I was a kid, dressing up like a monster. So performing in front of people, being in front of people, entertaining people, and loving monsters and such has always kind of been there as I've grown. And I got a chance to do some horror theater, which was a great melding for me. I loved doing that. And then the last play that I directed, which was a stage adaptation of Dracula, a filmmaker was in the audience. He saw that, and he asked me to help him get involved with the film project. Okay. So through that, I ended up getting involved in a film festival in Bloomington, Indiana, called the Dark Carnival. And for several years in a row, Dark Carnival was one of the kind of premier, if you will, indie, kind of low-budget indie film festivals. Due to some kind of fiscal, financial issues, Dark Carnival just wasn't able to kind of see it through to the long term. But because Horrorhound is kind of happening here local. I'm not too far from Indianapolis. Um, was able to get involved with Horrorhound, kind of bring Dark Carnival into Horrorhound. I approached the editor, and at the time when I was with Dark Carnival, saying, "Hey, listen, you guys want some help representing indie horror in the magazine?" Because we at Dark Carnival can help you do that. So, the first couple of things that I wrote for Horrorhound was as representing Dark Carnival, right? And that really started to kind of take off. And as Dark Carnival was beginning to wane, I just ended up kind of becoming exclusively involved with Horrorhound and being kind of trying to be kind of the voice for indie horror, for the magazine. Kind of at the same time, we've always screened films as part of Horrorhound Weekend, but we hadn't had a legitimate film festival until a couple of years ago. So bringing that about, legitimizing that. So it's just sort of been kind of a building. Tangential to all that, when I was with Dark Carnival, we've had this great relationship with horror hosts. I've also started the Horror Host Hall of Fame that Horrorhound is behind. The first event that we did was a Horror Host tribute to Vampira. Again, I was still with Dark Carnival at the time. We brought that event to Horrorhound. So, finding that chance to marry my passion for horror, my passion for entertainment, and entertaining people, and finding a venue like Horrorhound, and for people who want to do that sort of thing, it's all about just going out and making it happen.
Right.
Just make it happen. See where you want to be, find a way to get there, and do it. The biggest thing that's always bothered me is when people approach me and they talk to me and they tell me that they say, "Man, you're so lucky," and I'm like, "No, it's not luck, man. It's my grandfather used to tell me when I was a kid that luck is spelled W-O-R-K. If you see something you want, go get it.
Absolutely.
So you want to review films. The beauty of it is the internet is exploitable. You look at websites like Bloody Disgusting or Ain't It Cool News or Nerd Remix or on, that it just started off with just some guy launched a website. Next thing you know, he's actually considered a very legitimate and getting films from very legitimate sources. So start your thing, do your thing, make it different, make it unique. That's what people are looking for, and do it. You want to be a filmmaker? Be a filmmaker. There are a lot of great films now that are shot on people's smartphones.
Right.
In fact, we screened a film this weekend that was entirely shot on a smartphone. Looked brilliant. There is nothing stopping you from doing that. You don't need to go out and drop $4 or $5 grand on a great camera. If you become a great filmmaker, I recommend you doing that. But start with what you got.
Right.
The best film school that you can attend is making a film. Make the mistakes. Learn what your style is. Just do it. You want to write stories? What's stopping you? Write stories. You want to write scripts? There's nothing stopping you. Write them. It's not that hard to kind of get into that family of independent horror filmmakers and spread some scripts around. Whatever you want to do, make it happen.
That's
all I can say.
Very, very well said, man. That's awesome. So before we kind of close, I always try to put you on the spot for you have any interesting stories that might have happened this weekend, celebrity-wise, or anything remotely interesting for the audience.
Well, I mean,
and maybe not even this weekend. It could just be a story that you haven't told yet.
Yeah, sure. This is a party atmosphere. So one story I can tell last night, there ended up being a guy in the screening room who had just laid down in the chairs, decided that's where he was going to sleep for a couple hours, and for some reason pulled his pants down to his ankles and just was laying there in the screening room. And we couldn't wake him up. He was obviously went from sleeping to being unconscious.
Right.
And we kind of had to get some security and get that guy out of there. But that's just when you're like, well, that's just Horrorhound, man. That's just what it is. Yeah. Well, we have been very blessed in the last since you and I talked. We've had great chances to get attending celebrity guests who also happen to be involved in film projects that we're screening in the film festival,
right,
and getting them involved in the film festival. That's always a great thing when you can bring people like at our last indie show, we had Robert Englund, who was here with the Nightmare on Elm Street reunion, but he happened to be in a film that was premiering, or we're getting a sneak peek of, called Funhouse Massacre. We brought him up on stage. Robert Kurtzman was the SFX guy on that film. We had Robert then too. So we had Robert Kurtzman and Robert Englund, the Roberts, at our film festival, and it was because we had him at the show. So when those types of things happen, we had Danielle Harris here with the animated remake of Night of the Living Dead. So yeah, it's always beautiful when that sort of thing happens. It's really usually Sunday morning is usually your reflection of the drunken debauchery that can sometimes be the late night part of Horrorhound.
The questioning of morality.
Well, I think morality is sort of out the window. And I heard someone saying last night as I was stepping outside having a beer and a cigarette, someone used the cliche, what happens at Horrorhound stays at Horrorhound, and I had to lean in and said, except for herpes. Okay, that doesn't stay at Horrorhound. That goes home with you. And then they kind of looked at me and raised their eyebrows and went their separate ways. So I think I made an impact. I think I made a positive impact in someone's life last
That
night.
was your PSA for the
Exactly.
For the night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jason, thanks again. Like I said, this is probably what I look forward to most every year. Is sitting down and having a good conversation.
Man, I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. And for all you watching, if you want to kind of keep up on the latest and greatest, horrorhound.com. We have a lot of information to release about our record label, about our films label, about the magazine itself. Horrorhoundweekend.com. We're going to be launching the site for the March show here very soon, so you can start following who's going to be there, what's going to be going on in Cincinnati in March. So we're not hard to follow. You can follow us on Twitter. Go to @HorrorHound, or go to @Horrorhound Weekend, or @HorrorHound Films. We're on Instagram. We're all over the place. We're out there. We're not hard to find. Follow us. It'll change your life for the better, because that's what we do.
It changed my life.
We are ministers of horror.
Life. Thanks again so much, Jason. And be sure to tune in to horrorhive.com for all your convention coverage, your original horror content, where the blood runs like honey.